Big up everyone. I hope everyone is doing good. I'm trying to make this video. So yeah, so all I gotta say, yeah, smash up the like, subscribe. This is one of the few channels, one of the few people out here that'll talk about Brazilian football in English. So yeah, so the we're doing Brazilian clubs season review 2025 before heading to the big year to the World Cup. So I want to talk about Cruzeiro, who had a phenomenal good season. We're going to talk about everything basically, and yeah, so we're just getting ready. So yeah, all I gotta say, Merry Christmas. Well, it's not yet Christmas or Christmas Eve is almost here. I'm recording this on the 23rd of December. Trying to release it. It's currently 5:55, almost 6 p.m. So yeah, I want to talk about Cruzeiro, what they have achieved, what they have done in the year 2025, basically. And yeah, so I guess all right, let's put this in. So yeah, and this is just a tweet that I just find at best. So yeah, so you know the drill. Smash up the like, subscribe. Nice ass here from the fans. Big up to the fans on blue, basically. The Foxes, as they're called. So yeah, let's talk about Cruzeiro. So yeah, so yeah, so yeah, so Cruzeiro, they, if you don't know where they are from, the Mineiro area, also the Brazilian professional club based in Bola Horsa. Sorry if I can't pronounce the city well, because my Portuguese is just not great. Let let me just try, translate real quick. But you know the feeling. Bola Horsta.
Belo Horizonte.
Bola Horizonte. Yeah, sorry if I can't pronounce it right. That's where they're based in. Yeah, that's where they were based in. So yeah, so yes, they have a couple a couple titles. They have six Copa do Brazil titles, two Copa Libertadores titles, I believe one Sul-Americana, and a couple league titles as well here and there. Cruzeiro are pretty much a mid-table. I'm not mid-table, but I mean mid. Big sized club. Like like kind of like an Aston Villa or Everton, I would say, for England, like that kind of ish. So mid big club, kind of in between, kind of. So yeah, so yeah, so as we get ready, so yeah, so as we're getting ready for sure, absolutely. Oh come on! No, I was just trying to press something. So yeah, so we can talk about the players, of course. But let's talk about the season. Let me try to go all the way back to the beginning of 2025 let's talk about their squad basically. So yeah, but that's it for Cruzeiro. Their biggest rivals are Atletico Mineiro. They're basically who are supposed to be owned as the biggest club from Boa Vista, but yeah, that's their biggest rivals. Black and white. They're in blue and white. Yeah, they're two enemies, no friends, no nothing. These two teams don't like each other. Nope, they don't. They don't. So So yeah, so let's just get into it. So Cruzeiro, but yeah, I just hope I said everything. Background of the club, I said everything. So yeah, so let's start that. The season kicked off, I think January 19th, or it kicked off January. They had preseason games. January 15th, they drew São Paulo 1-1. They drew with Atletico Mineiro in the derby in Florida. But this was just preseason. So I want to talk about the main the main team. So okay, so before we check on the fixtures, who's their squad basically, even though it's my likely. So yeah, so even though he's a coach, even though this guy Leandro Jardine, I hope I said his name right. He basically took Cruzeiro from there, I think, and but ever since then, but unfortunately, he got fired last week after losing the penalty shootout against Corinthians, as we're gonna explain. So yeah, and he did a pretty much a great job, Cruzeiro, which we're gonna analyze a lot basically. They got Hiron as the goalkeeper second choice. This guy, even though he doesn't get called up, Casco, bro. You know him. He was at Corinthians, who won them the 2012 World Cup against Chelsea. He's a Club World Cup winner. And yes, of course, that was rebranded, of course, as the new Intercontinental Cup, of course, which we all know Flamengo almost did to PSG. But yeah, they have a Club World Cup winner who used to play for Corinthians and now has been at Cruzeiro since May 2024, since he left Corinthians after being there for so long. But he was absolute legend for Corinthians. But decided to move to Cruzeiro, and he's still Lansing at 38 years old. He doesn't even. I heard that he doesn't want to like retire just yet. Same with Fabio at Fluminense. It's like just don't going at it. Goalkeepers, like for some reason, they just go at it for more. It just doesn't catch them up as much as like the outfield players. So big up to him. He started off in Grêmio, of course, for a year and a half, and then moved to Europe, PSV, stayed, and then just stayed for Brazil for the rest of his career. Especially, we all know for the national team. I think he was part of that Copa America squad. I could be wrong. I think he was that part of 2019 Copa America squad where they won it. If you know Felipe Luis, Thiago Silva, that you know what I'm saying. But yeah, but this guy is absolute brilliant keeper. Basically, yes, I know you only kept one, but this is the Mineiro 2025 Serie A. So yes, there's been a couple. So here's the stats for him. Cruzeiro starting goalkeeper. I don't know if he went down injured once. I think he might have played all game. I don't know if he got suspended once. So 109 saves. Interesting. Just 27 goals conceded. But that's pretty good. Like that rate. So there's probably 130 shots fired at you, and that's a pretty good record. That's like a 77% good record. From corners as well. 20 set pieces. Like penalties, even saving two pens, even though they're hard. Shot outside the box, like open plays. But interesting. So yeah, I believe that was happening. But yeah, I remember this guy. He used to be at Corinthians, Club World Cup winner. He kept the clean sheet. They did the upset against Chelsea. So yeah, he moved to Cruzeiro since last year, since because of the rise of Hugo Soroff, which we will be doing a video on Corinthians soon. As unfortunate, his former club had to knock him out basically of the Copa do Brazil, which we're going to talk about. They have Leandro. Oh wait, this is another. Oh, these are their goalkeepers. So this is the center backs, including Fabrizio Bruno, who gets called up as the most known, who was at Flamengo last year, but now he's at Cruzeiro. He was at Flamengo until the last day of last year when their last game against Victoria. And it's not just Fabrizio Bruno, even though I haven't got to the rest squad. They got Jordanson, Jonathan Jesus, center back, right back, Lucas Silva. So interesting pretty much squad basically. And yeah, so Christian Garan. They have Marquinhos. This is a different Marquinhos that used to play for Arsenal, I think, for like a few minutes, for like a few or at least he was trying to get to Arsenal's A team, but the first team, but Arteta hasn't like trust him fully. So where is he? I guess, but I may not know a lot of these guys pretty well. I mean, I am trying to like learn everyone. Wederson, I think I heard of him. Oh, he's from Belgium. Interesting. But I know these two: Gabriel Barbosa or Gabriel Barbosa and Cal Jorginho. These guys are the two stars. Even though for Gabriel Barbosa, it just hasn't went well for Cruzeiro ever since he left Flamengo. Ever since he has established himself somewhat of a legend for Flamengo after winning that Copa do Brazil last year, his last title, and as well winning Flamengo the comeback against River Plate in the Libertadores. And Cal Jardim has been absolutely special for Flamengo, for Cruzeiro. He's Cruzeiro's best player, consistent striker here and there. So he's underrated. So I heard some teams in Europe are scouting him, but I don't know if they're making a move or they're going to have to wait till the World Cup. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So yeah, so this is their squad. So yeah, so there you go. They're mostly attacker, but yeah, of course. But yeah, even though Gabriel Barbosa, it hasn't been the best since he hasn't started like much of the games as expected, and now apparently he's leaving Cruzeiro. So there was a couple players that Cruzeiro let go, but I forgot who it is. So I'm trying to break it down. So here it is. So they started their debut on January the 19th of this year against Dominos in the Mineiro fixture. They won 1-0. Let's see the result. It was from Palacio, 4th minute, and nothing else happened. So they were trying to use the B team since there wasn't no need for the A team, even though except Sasio and goal basically. This was their fixtures. They got Athletic Club, they lost, they won over here. So they had a couple points, and I know the Mineiro, what's this called? The Mineiro, what's this called? Cup or that state in-state competition is like different. I think you have to like grab points, finish like top four. Maybe it's similar to Skyok. I could be wrong, but yeah, they won basically these games easily. They drew 1-1 with America Mineiro, which is like the third largest team. The play line like team basically the third basically. They drew them unfortunately, and unfortunately on February 9th, which we did a watch along, it was disappointing. Cruzeiro lost to Atletico Mineiro at home. And unfortunately, Gabriel Barbosa got sent off. Stinker and Hooked, unfortunately. And Hook would slam two of these. There was no way fans. They were getting out. And yeah, everyone was mid. And they just couldn't do much. And then this was kind of stupid. And I think that's probably the reason why he's been dropped. But of course, as they have their players. But yeah, this was by far. They lost, and they lost back-to-back games. And they qualified for the playoffs. They made it to the semifinals. They drew 1-1 with America. And then they drew with America Mineiro in the semifinals, and then they've caught up with them. They drew home and away. But unfortunately for Cruzeiro, their first competition would come to an end, unfortunately. They'd lose on pens, unfortunately, against America do Mineiro. It was disappointing, bro. They just have not looked good on pens, despite having the better chances and throughout the match and open play. But but that was disappointing, bro. That was good. I didn't watch this game because apparently it was hard to find the Mineiro. I'm pretty sure Fanatis might have gotten Mineiro coverage. I don't know because it's like hard to find the in-state competitions. Brazil, of course, you're global, and even Fanatis will have Paulistone or Paulista or Carioca. You'll have them for sure, but they're a lot hard to find unless you live in Brazil. So yeah, so these are everyone predict Cruzeiro to win, and people got that wrong. Unfortunately, that's disappointing. They would go ahead and lose the semifinal. They couldn't meet their biggest rivals, Atletico Mineiro, in the final. Could have gotten a Mineiro derby again in the final, but these guys just left it off against America Mineiro and Atletico Mineiro, their biggest rivals, even though they have been much better than them. They've been worse. They lost. As I'm stretching. I mean, they won the Mineiro Cup, their 50th, which I'm also going to do a review on season above Galo, as they're called, the chickens, Galo. I will be doing a season review about them. But yeah, after that, season is over. Players got rested for 1 month, and they just had these fixtures. And here comes the Brazilian League. So before we talk about all the results, this was their opener. They had to play Bragantino. These are the fixtures, basically. And I thought Cruzeiro for the first half So yeah, so all right, let's check the table if I can do it. So yeah, Cruzeiro. Even though this is for next season, I'm talking about last season. Can I not like put last season? Wait, can I not fix this? I mean, not fix this. Can I not put calendar? No. Can I not go from last year? No. Yeah, they finished second, Group C. Oh, I can't. Damn it. Why? But Cruzeiro finished third with 74 points, 3 points behind Palmeiras, and 6 points behind Flamengo. I think, or no, I think it was 9 points. I forgot. But yeah, Cruzeiro finished third. It was honorable for them, as we're going to review their fixtures. But that was disappointing uh, for Cruzeiro. So yeah, well, after the disappointing Wednesday competition, they had to play their opener against Red Bull Bragantino, where they debuted everything, the coach, everything. I think, right? So yeah, so not hold on, showing the result. So they drew 1-1, and after conceding that penalty, that won an open play. Gabriel Barbosa started, and guess what? He scored basically, even though it's not showing me the bloody lineups. Basically, I didn't did a watch along, unfortunately. But yeah, this match was March 22nd. Oh wait, no! This was a friendly. My bad. This wasn't even their opener. This wasn't even their opener. This wasn't even their bloody opener. This is a club friendly. My bad. So that didn't. That's the reason why. But yeah, these were the fixtures they had. After getting eliminated, crossed out, unfortunately, from the Sudamericana. I mean, sorry, Mineiro competition, and say they still had Serie A, they still had the Copa do Brazil. They were not in the Super Cup because we all know that you have to win the cup or because the Super Copa do Brazil could have been like the four teams, like you know what, Serie A or La Liga. It could have been like La Liga or Serie A. I mean Italy or Spain. You know the four teams. You know the runners up of the cup and runners up of the league, basically having them in, or even all four, in case there's like two runners up, basically already from the top two or something. They could have done that, maybe because they know, well, they probably still wouldn't have entered because they failed to get to the Copa do Brazil final. But yeah, Cruzeiro, they started off strong at home. An opener against a new promoted Mirassol, who's been in CC for like a couple of years ago and who hasn't been in Serie A in like a while, I think. So yeah, Cruzeiro, they won this game they went 2-0 up in like the first 22 minutes, and then things slowed down, and Mirasol does get one back from good cross to Ramon. So yeah, everyone made their debut. Gabriel Barbosa gets his goal. I thought things were looking good for Cruzeiro, and then they just controlled the ball in the second half and held on, got important 3 points, and yeah. Hold on, does this take me back? Oh yeah, there's a full table. Yeah, they finished with 78 points. Mirasol were just 3 points behind them. So yeah, so that was the opener. It started with that. Cruzeiro against Mirassol started 66%. It was full. So yeah, so they started off good. Cruzeiro, they started off good. And then yeah, and a few days later they got played their first Sudamericana / Continental game. If you don't know the Copa Sudamericana, it's basically South America, if not the Americas version of the Europa League, basically. Basically, yeah. And even though the Sudamericana, which is just um there's no South American version of the Conference League. So yeah, it's just like that. So yeah, so yeah, so yeah, unfortunately they started off unfortunately disappointing loss against Union against Union, the what's this called? Union from Argentina, I think they are. Yeah, Santa Fe, I think. That's who they are. They won this game 1-0. Unfortunately, this was ridiculous because Cruzeiro were just parking the bus. They had two shots on target, but these guys couldn't do anything. And unfortunately for Cruzeiro, they had more of the possession, but they didn't do enough. They didn't create a big chance, and they missed. And they had to lose at the bloody death. The 93rd or 94th minute. That was a joke. Because I thought that they should have gotten a point. Cruzeiro just couldn't. This was disappointing. Everyone's available. And yeah, they're away from starting to hit him. Of course, they had Gabriel Calgeorgine didn't start that, I guess. And they came off and just wasn't enough. It was just disappointing for Cruzeiro. So yeah, and then the following few days, on Sunday, the April 6th, they lost 3-0 to Internacional. Oh, come on! What's this? What's going on? No. No. Aha! What did I fucking hit? Why is it saying virus when I'm just hitting a bloody game? Fuck off. Sorry, guys. Let me get this. Why is it not letting me in this game? Come on. What did I press? Come on. Sorry for my language, but this just happened. Someone's giving me a virus, even though I'm just checking FOBMOB. Sorry if I was. What a joke. But yeah, Internacional. But yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully, this does not happen. Like these viruses, bro. Nothing. I swear I don't even something to go. But anyways, Internacional won 3-0. Cruzeiro had a red card. Jesus unfortunately got sent off in that game. Sinker and hooked. I know some people, Cruzeiro fans, they think that they got robbed or something. I didn't see that. I was about to do a watch along, but I think I was busy with something that day, so I couldn't do it. But 3-0 was just kind of bad. Or I think this might have happened during Flamengo and through Victoria, so maybe I was live, but I just couldn't catch up that game. I think this game was. So that's probably the reason why. Game ended 3-0. It was a bad result for Cruzeiro. They lost 3-0, minus goal differences too. This was just disappointing for Cruzeiro. This is an unfortunate. And this was debatable, but I know Valencia scored, Patrick scored. But yeah. And we're going to be making a video as well for Internacional. We will be making a video of Internacional as well. So unfortunately for Cruzeiro, a few days later, they lost in the Sudamericana. And this was not looking good. And I have no idea why they started to play bad. They drew Sao Paulo away from home, which was a good, okay result. And it got impressive, a 3-0 win against Bahia. So everything was going well, ball control and all that. But they would lose to actual Bragantino, unfortunately, away from home, which is actually disappointing. This is the actual game, bro. Jonathan scored and they just couldn't do anything. And yeah, unfortunately, they lost. I know Bragantino had the better shots. That just wasn't good enough, of course. But they were just getting locked down. Bragantino was their day, and Cruzeiro wasn't. Not they could have scored, but yeah. It was just disappointing. It's just disappointing to watch. For so for Cruzeiro, this was disappointing against. Unfortunately, they would go ahead and lose to Palestone, and they would still not get a win. And I have no idea why. They've been horrible in Sudamericana. I think that's why the Sudamericana was not as fun in the knockouts, because I think Cruzeiro was missing. Corinthians also got grouped. Thought that was embarrassing. A lot of Brazilian clubs, for some reason, they strong in Sudamericana more than Libertadores. And Cruzeiro have been bad, and Cruzeiro last season was worse. Both the league, they were mid-table to trash, and um, and they finished above, and then they finished and they made it to the final at least, but unfortunately lose to Racing, which we could have gotten a possibly Cruzeiro Botafogo Recopa. Maybe Cruzeiro might have won because, well, like I said, they just fell off a cliff. But yeah, I have no idea why they did. But yeah, they three losses in a row. That's just sustainable. And look, the way at Chile, of course, there wasn't a lot of people. Only 21% capacity. They have everyone. Yes, I guess, man. But like, it's just not good. I have no idea why they showed. They would look. They would tie and then they choke. No, it's just unbelievable. This was disappointing. So Americano was just a bit disappointed. They would go ahead and get a 2-0 win against Villanova in the Cup, I guess, in the round one or round two or round three of Copa do Brazil. But here's the big test: Cruzeiro hosts Flamengo, who would eventually be champions. The champions of Copa do Brazil at that time before Sunday, right now basically, which is now Corinthians. And guess what? As Cruzeiro were going up and down form basically, I thought Flamengo was going to win, especially in response to Palmeiras getting a 1-0 win against Vasco because Vasco are a joke. Cruzeiro played actually real well, honestly. Cal Jorginho would score, makes a good volley. No one's marking it. Rossi couldn't save it. Leo Pereira, I think, was at fault, unfortunately. And then he scores the banger, and Cruzeiro does go 1-0 up. And they were trying to control the possession. And then, 15 minutes. 20 minutes. And then just before halftime, someone made another good ball. I think it was Luis Arujo, or who's in the starting 11. Someone assisted to Vascaeta. Gresson, oh yeah. Which, by the way, Gresson, there's been reported links that Cruzeiro wants him because of Diti, knowing him, especially as he was, there for last year, as being captain under him before Felipe Luis takes over. Gresson got the assist to Ascayeta. He scores it, equalized, and it goes 1-1 going to halftime. And then the game still it felt still for the next 30 minutes. I thought this game some Flamengo might win it because I thought Flamengo was still known Cruzeiro. But the game remained stilled 1-1. Thought it was likely ending a draw even at the 90th minute. But until the last 2 minutes, they added on 5 minutes of stoppage time. I remember I was falling asleep basically, even though I wanted to eat before I go to sleep. Cruzeiro won a penalty. Gabriel Barbosa scored against his former club. It was a rebound. Rossi actually saved the first time, but Gabriel Barbosa would manage to get the rebound and scores it, even though he didn't celebrate. But yeah, and got them all 3 points, and the game was over at the penalty check. And Flamengo were getting their first defeat of the season for Felipe Luis, unfortunately, after a disappointing draw against Internacional. And we'll get to Flamengo. I'll make a video about them soon, guys, just after Christmas. So but I don't know if I have time to do a Christmas cooking session, honestly, or Vasco cooking session because I have to do this and all that. It takes a lot of time. It's not even. I should have done a live stream, but you see. But everyone's kind of in that game, honestly. Leo Pereira, the worst side of West wasn't that great, but Bruno Rica did absolutely nothing. Michael nothing, but Michael Rujo, but Cruzeiro gets their biggest victory of the season, a massive 2-1 win against Flamengo, even though they do get along. So even though Flamengo didn't have to wear their white away kit, Well, because Cruzeiro is partially white as well, and they wear white shorts, kind of. So Cruzeiro, the Foxes beat Flamengo at home, and then and Cruzeiro have been good in the big games. Honestly, they've been good. They drew 1-1 with, unfortunately, another drop in points. Unfortunately, not showing you the same mentality. Unfortunate Sudamericana, and I was disappointed. They got a 4-0 win against Sporting Recife, and guess what? There was like 2 more days, or was this the final day? Oh, 2 more days. So Cruzeiro would get a big win against Palas against Palestino. Finally, they beat them at home. Finally, an important 2-1 victory. They finally get their first win in the Sudamericana, getting 4 points to keep their dreams alive, maybe to advance second. Gabriel Barbosa, last minute winner, late winner again. So back interesting. Week and a half after scoring against Flamengo, their Palestina went 2-1 up. Yeah, this was an important victory. And Ganderville and Cruzeiro, a lot of fans were not even there. It was only 16% capacity. I think there might have been a boycott or something. I don't know, and I couldn't do this watch along. I think I was busy with something. Yeah, but Cruzeiro, oh yeah, I was preparing to go to the San Jose Earthquakes Inter Miami game, so that's probably the reason why I didn't went there. Did a stream about it. So Cruzeiro get a 2-1 win. After that, they drew 0-0 with Atlético Mineiro, their biggest rival. Still couldn't score. This is an intense back and forth game. But yeah, this game ended 0-0, and the Mineiro are disappointing a little bit. It's just it was almost full because it's the derby. It's basically their biggest game. Jose more possession, the slightly better shot. But yeah, it was no same Flamengo Botafogo, which yeah. But yeah. But yeah, Cruzeiro, Atlético Mineiro 0-0. And then Cruzeiro would get a 3-0 win against Villanova. And then they advanced to the round 16 of the Copa do Brazil after the third or fourth round of Copa do Brazil. As there wouldn't be a draw basically. But then Cruzeiro's form would absolutely improve. They get a 2-0 win against Fortaleza, but unfortunately for the Sul-Americana, it ended disappointingly. They finished third in the group, 0-0 draw. Union also had a red card in that game as well, and Cruzeiro didn't take advantage, unfortunately. This was such a disappointing end for Cruzeiro. They only had 2 shots on target. I don't get it why they were bad. Why they decided to abandon the Copa Sudamericana. This is just disappointing, bro. And last season, Cruzeiro was the worst one. Made it to the final at least. But this one got grouped. I thought this was embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie. Should have gone for this. Is why I didn't even notice if they because they didn't even make it to the playoffs, and I thought that was embarrassing. But yeah, they've been good at everything else. The league they started to look good, started competing in cup. Everything was going well, and then they had another big win this time against Palmeiras, and this helped Flamengo going like 1 point up, and after Palmeiras at one point having 4 points ahead in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks later they would go back to second with like 1 point behind Flamengo, basically, as they head into the Club World Cup. This was the last game. This was Esteval's last game for Palmeiras. And Cruzeiro, they went 2-0 up in the first 3 to 5 minutes. They went 2-0 up. Cal Jorginho scoring from a header, and then they get it right, and then there was another set piece, and they put it in. Goal. They went 2-0 up in the first 2 minutes, basically. And ever since then, Cruzeiro kind of slowed down. But they had those brilliant moments. Palmeiras were making those mistakes. these guys were getting caught. So yeah, so 14 shots, 18 shots. Cruzeiro were just clinical, and Palmeiras they had the better shots on target, but they were just not clinical. And Cruzeiro had those two big chances and pressed it in. This was absolutely furious for Palmeiras. And yes, Cruzeiro just controlled the game for the rest. They were trying to push for a third goal, but then ever since the 70th minute, they're just controlling the ball, parking the bus, and they looked nervous, I guess, kind of. And then Palmeiras, they do get one back at the 86th minute against Cruzeiro, but it was too late. Allen and they had on 5 minutes, and then Manchester just wins a foul, but just couldn't do anything. Couldn't score a free kick. It was at nearly full capacity. We should, yeah, they didn't look that good. And they didn't. Everton wasn't that best, of course, but this is disappointing for Palmeiras because they would slip in the title race. And Cruzeiro, this looked everything good, bro. They would be in second place or third place themselves, but even I think Bragantino and them, Flamengo would get their leadership basically, liderança as first place. But yeah, this was disappointing for Palmeiras that day, even though Cruzeiro, this was massive. And then they did play one more game, technically. They drew 0-0 Victoria, and then the players would get another full break, basically a winter break, due to the Club World Cup being played in the U.S. It wasn't 3-1, it was 0-0. Unfortunately, with this 0-0 draw, was a bit disappointing because Victoria at that time, even though they did escape relegation, there wasn't a lot of people admitted Waddle got sent off, hooked. So, these were the result. So yeah, so even but disappointing, bro. But yeah, disappointing because Cruzeiro thought they could have gotten advantage as they tied Flamengos. They have a game in hand. So yeah, so they would have Cruzeiro for them. They'll be like chilling, drinking, whatever. Just get a 1 month break during the Club World Cup and just wait for everyone to come back. Wait until the final day, which we all know Chelsea PSG, which we all know. I think this game was literally played after Chelsea crowned themselves as world champions against PSG with that Club World Cup. Cruzeiro would come back fire, cold, all blue fire, and coolness. A 4-1 victory against Grêmio. This was massive. And these guys would go on a run. They beat Fluminense at the Maracanã. They beat UB2 4-0. They got away at Corinthians to draw. But yeah, Cruzeiro have been pretty good and damn good in the big games. But there was one fluke game that came along, and that was against Serie A at the end of July. And this was kind of a fluky one because Cruzeiro had like all the possession, I think, and they just couldn't take those opportunities. They went 1-0 up in the first 4 minutes, and then Serie A would slowly cut in, and yeah, they would win. And this is disappointing for Cruzeiro because they were not much of a better team, but unfortunately they got, and unfortunately they were getting their first defeat at home. They drew 0-0 CBF in the round 16 of the Copa do Brazil. No surprise there. That was disappointing as well. But Cruzeiro would go to get back-to-back wins as we approach the end of the first half of the season. Got a 2-0 win against Cruzeiro. Botafogo, I mean. Once the current champions, of course, that was disappointing. For Botafogo, Cruzeiro, they just went 2-0 up, controlled the ball in the second half, not letting them score from open play. That got in pen, but yeah, they had another win against CRB, basically, in the cup event in them in the quarterfinals to play their biggest rivals, Atletico Mineiro. But they had another fluke game. This was the last game before the first half ended. They lost to Neymar Santos at home. Yes, they lost 3-0 away as well, but they lost 2-1. Fabrizio Bruno put them ahead. It was all looking good for the first half. And then Santos would equalize 62. I think Neymar had something good with play as well. Well, even though he didn't got an assist in that game, I thought he did. It was Augusto. Even though he probably did some link up to that probably happen. I think But yeah, he got them the win. And Cruzeiro, this is disappointing. They lost to Santos at home. That was disappointing because now this only helps Flamengo. They started, but yeah, Cruzeiro, they've been consistent in most of these big games. I mean, not just big games, but they've been consistent most of the season, basically. And even at the Club World Cup, they look fresh. And then they tied Mirasol away from Mirasol in the second half. They got revenge on Internacional. And guess what? This was the real fire up match. They had to play Atletico Mineiro the first leg of the quarterfinal Brazilian Cup. They won 2-0. The goals from Fabrizio Bruno, Cal Jorginho, they didn't let Atletico Mineiro win a single. They can't even score a goal against them. So yeah, and they didn't have much possession, but they knew they attacked the right time. And yeah, Cruzeiro would own their biggest rivals home and away. And then they also beat São Paulo 1-0 heading to the September international break. They would go in good form. Look at this. They beat Bahia, got late win, comeback. But they did have a fluke game against Vasco. I thought that was bad because here's the thing: they prefer showing up against Flamengo. They got a 0-0 draw, but they lost to Vasco at the Saint Jordanio a couple blocks a few days earlier, basically. Yeah, this was during the Barcelona PSG, matchup, which I just don't agree, basically. But yeah, Cruzeiro got a 0-0 draw. They got away with it, and even though they had the better chances, they actually had the better chances of people than. But Flamengo just looked more. But this is disappointing, bro. The game was already over. They had it on 5-6 minutes. Cruzeiro at Egg, they held on. They did it. They beat. They didn't lose to Flamengo, and this is disappointing because hurt Flamengo the title race in early October, basically. And yeah, Cruzeiro managed to get a draw, but this was disappointing. After all that hard work, they decided not to take Sport Recife seriously. At home, they drew 1-1. And unfortunately for Cruzeiro, all the luck, they kind of slowed down basically. Yes, of course, they would have Palmeiras, they would draw off Atletico Mineiro, not losing to them, but yeah, they would draw them in the league. They beat Fortaleza 1-0, they draw 0-0 Palmeiras away from home as well. Same scoreline like Flamengo. The aggregate home 2-1 and away 0-0. Similar result. Probably to Bruno gets sent off. Home has a slightly better chance, but Cruzeiro did pretty much well against the pressure, even though Palmeiras kind of got. But yeah, this is good. This was, I mean, it wasn't great, but I mean, it was okay. But even though the controversy, but yeah, Cruzeiro would get a week rest. They they beat Victoria. They beat Grêmio away. Unfortunately, they tied for the men's at home. They couldn't beat them. They tied UB2 3-3, and these guys just could not win against small teams, unfortunately. But Cruzeiro had a recent big win against Corinthians in the league exactly 1 month ago. I can't believe it's been 1 month. So yeah, not the penalty shootout. We're not there yet. They won 3-0. Martinez got sent off. Could have been 4. But yeah, Cruzeiro, just like last year, with a worse form, he humiliated Corinthians once again at home. Corinthians didn't even have Sean Tony under. I mean, Corinthians, this was the handling their worst defeat ever since the last one. Roberto, everyone's man, Memphis Depay couldn't do anything. I mean, it wasn't available, and that's true that day. But yeah, this was disappointing. And I know Corinthians didn't use Hugo Soroff. Oh yeah, that's true. Just coming back from injury, this guy was not great. But yeah, they let Cal Jorginho get a goal and assist, man, of the match. Oh, got 2 goals and 1 assist. Oh, by far. And yeah, these were Crusaders' final results. Unfortunately, they keep drawing small teams. Their last 2 games before the Copa do Brazil semifinals, 3 games, they just didn't win again. They drew 1 on Syria. They went 2-0 up against Botafogo and bottled that game. Despite not being the better team and yeah, Cruzeiro, after that Corinthians game, they stopped winning. They just gave up basically for the season. Like they were just not good enough to compete. And yeah, and on the last day they rotated heavily to focus on that Copa do Brazil game. They lost 3-0. And Neymar didn't even have to score that game, but Neymar was okay. He may not got an assist, but and everyone was pretty much mad. This felt like this was 11 versus 11. They lost 3-0 as Neymar Santos escaped relegation. And yeah, they rotated heavily to prepare for this game against Corinthians, and they go ahead and lose that game, which we did a watch along. Not Memphis the high scores. Someone was not marking them in Cruzeiro. They had better chances, but they didn't do much. They didn't create the big chances. And yeah, and they lost at home. They did absolutely not good enough. And that means that Cruzeiro season was about to end. And then let's talk about the last game against against Corinthians. This time in the second leg. So this is the one. Corinthians, they decided to underestimate Cruzeiro. Cruzeiro would kind of come back into it just before halftime. Arnin scores the goal before halftime, 1-0 up as they're trying to revive it. And then he would score again 5 minutes into the second half, and they go 2-0 up. And then Biming does get back into it. They do get one back for Corinthians. It was all still until 90 minutes for the next like 40 minutes, kind of. We got a penalty shootout, and Cruzeiro would score. Corinthians, they would miss their first penalty. Roberto would miss. Everyone scored. Herrera, Person, William, Lucas Silva. But unfortunately, this disaster from Gabriel Barbosa literally hurt them in the back because Gabriel Barbosa had the chance to kill the game and send Crusaders to the final, and unfortunately, he bottled it. He bottled it. Yeah, this is disappointing. As for Gusto Enrique, he would equalize, and then guess what, Wallace? He would miss again. Here goes Sora would miss another one, and then Bidden would score the equalizer and wins it. Scores the winner and wins it for Corinthians, and Corinthians were through to the final as they were waiting to play Vasco and Fluminense as well. And yeah, and Cruzeiro, the season ends. And yeah, so all I gotta say for Cruzeiro, these are the fixtures they'll have. The Mineiro there is January 25th. What I would say for Cruzeiro, I thought they had a really good season, but there's just some negatives, unfortunately, we gotta talk about. They've been consistent, but unfortunately, when they ran out of gas and they can't, move everything, they just couldn't do it. So, but I will say this, but what has Cruzeiro improved, basically? I would say, I know Crusaders 2025 season maybe not about winning yet, as they're trying to kind of win trophies yet, trying to stay competitive while rebuilding, kind of I guess. The big picture, the reasons I would say Cruzeiro didn't lose because they were bad, they were rebuilding progress amid signings. Brazilian clubs are ahead right now, so maybe that's part of the reason why they just wanted to do that. So yeah, I think that's what Cruzeiro did. And yeah, unfortunately, so unfortunately they may not just be there. And I know that they might have like some financial issues maybe, as there's still like room of I guess improvement. But I would say for Cruzeiro, I think there's a clear identity forming. They're no longer, compact or disciplined. Everyone knows what they're doing, I guess, kind of. everything. So I would say so. Yeah. So even though the Sudamericana they didn't take that seriously, unfortunately, I would get over, but I just think they could have done a bit more. Even though yeah they just want to do it for Cruzeiro, the treatments basically they've qualified for Copa Libertadores for the first time since 2018 because it's been a long time. It's been a while. Because don't forget, this team got relegated in 2019, and it didn't went back up till 2023 for the 2023, but it wasn't announced till 2022 when they won Serie B. And yeah, Cruzeiro, I thought I would say I would give them like a B plus. I would say a B plus. Yeah, between B plus or B plus, I would think the highest. Because what they have done, they kind of improved. They show much more fluidity. There's a mentality inside as well, basically, of the wins, basically. But the consistency still needs to work a bit more. But it is showing. And I thought this looked a lot better than Cruzeiro. Yes, the Sul-Americana does kind of drop off for Cruzeiro. But everything else, I thought they looked better. They made it to the semifinals of Copa do Brazil, which I think last year they might have been knocked down in round 16. I forgot who knocked them out in round 16. I forgot who knocked them out. Or the round 32. But they did much better. I would say a B. I would say a B at best, B plus. But this was just disappointing, unfortunately. They were not in the Club World Cup because who knows, maybe Cruzeiro, the way that they were playing at that time, that form, they probably would have done something in the Club World Cup. They probably would have done. I mean, of course they wouldn't win it, but maybe they would have gone out the group stage. Cruzeiro, maybe they probably would have beaten Inter Miami if they were in Palmeiras' group maybe, and maybe they probably would have topped the group. Maybe they probably would have done that, but they didn't qualify because they haven't won Libertadores. Of course, the league thing, the rankings and all that, they were nowhere near, unfortunately for that. So yeah, but unfortunately, the Mineiro Cup semifinals, Copa do Brazil semifinals, Sul-Americana group, the league, third place. But at least that's all they could at least get. But there was some disappointment. But even though I think some fans feel proud, even though disappointing that it's going out. So yeah, so that wraps up Crusaders this season. So yeah, I do enjoy some of the football, but of course, they did fire Leandro as manager, and they decided to bring in Titi, who was managing Flamengo before Felipe Luis was brought in, basically. Let me try and get this. All right, where is it? So yeah, as of December 16th, a week ago, Cruzeiro has hired Titi, time champion. Titi will be in Revolution. So yeah, so I know some people like kind of are have some mixed feelings like this. What will happen, Gabriel Barbosa and Gabriel Barbosa, especially DT, even though he doesn't have much. But like I don't know, like of course the another manager Leandro was kind of like I wouldn't say like Simeone's at Atletico Madrid, like more defensive. Of course, Crusaders definitely are, and they've been playing a lot of nil-nil unfortunate haram balls away from home. Unfortunately, but even though at home they were more organized, but a couple fluke games, and of course it kind of caught up with them. But yeah, I just think that we'll see what happens. Even though DT may but probably the most best they could have. DT is back, by the way, from because DT earlier this year was decided to not coach anyone due to health reasons, just trying to take care of his health, which health comes first. But yeah, he's back and he says ready. So we'll see how he does. I don't know if he'll do sure Allegri as well, trying get the best out of his players. So yeah, so we're hopeful. I mean, you're hopeful that Cruzeiro does, and I hope they do something. But even though Leandro just kind of gave everything, so maybe it's the right moves for the Foxes, basically. unless you're an Atletico Mineiro fan. Think otherwise, but yeah, Cruzeiro they'll be back next month. But yeah, just need to practice everything. So yeah, so that might just be it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed for this new episode. All I gotta say, it's been almost an hour video, almost 7 p.m. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Smash, like, comment. What do you think of this video? I'll be back in a bit, I guess. So let me try so yeah, you know the drill. So Cruzeiro, fantastic season, just not just maybe not going for all of it just yet. So yeah, yes. One more thing I forgot to mention. Yes, unfortunately for Cruzeiro, they have not won a major trophy besides Serie B since 2018. That was the cup against I forgot. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy. You know the drill. I'll see you next.